In this forecast, a blast of cold air is coming to the Midwest and Northeast, and it may bring some snow flurries. Temperatures could go below 20 tomorrow, and a new tropical system has developed in the Caribbean Sea. Where is it going? All of that and more is coming right up. Let's first begin with that cold blast that is not just going to bring cooler temperatures, but may bring some isolated snow flurries to some areas in the United States. Beginning with the temperature anomalies. Now, the blue colors representing your below to well below average temperatures, and this is a look at tonight, and we are already beginning to see a cold front move through the Midwest. That is currently bringing a lot of cooler air, and it might even feel a little bit frigid to some of you back up in the northern plains. Eventually heading into late Friday into Saturday, this colder air will begin to move a bit more off to the east as that trough back up here in Canada will begin to usher cooler air from the central plains all the way back through the northeast. Now, the cold weather doesn't end here. We're going to see some improvements at least heading into early to mid next week for those in the Midwest and as well as the Northeast, but another trough may come out of Canada. It should be pretty quick moving, but it might bring another little area of cold air that might even be enough to maybe potentially bring a little bit of snow. This will be something to watch long term. Obviously, it's 200 hours out, so we're not going to really give you a forecast that far out, but it will be something to watch for those in the Northeast. And eventually going into next weekend, we may even have another strong trough that could even bring another cold blast to areas in the northern United States. And if this were to happen, this could actually impact areas as far south as Texas. So this will be something to watch going into the long term. Now, what does this mean for the rest of the day, though, in terms of precipitation? Because the cold front has already moved through the upper Michigan Peninsula, and it's already beginning to bring still some rain. It's cold rain at this point, but maybe some flurries or light snow may occur overnight tonight, and maybe even a little bit of sleet. That's going to depend on how cold the weather gets as well, a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, but we might see some flurries. Again, a little bit of light snow. Accumulation will remain very minimal across these areas, if any, because again, it's going to be pretty dry out there. So dry air should be able to limit most of the snow from hitting the ground. Here's my current forecast in terms of the accumulation, which won't be much. Flurries is the main concern at this point. Might see up to an isolated coating of snow, though, for those that are very lucky from what we see tonight. Now, heading into tomorrow, or even tonight into tomorrow, we'll begin to see that cold front move towards New England, and eventually going to late Friday into Saturday morning, we may get a couple of flurries across areas in New York. So Syracuse back through Jamestown, it will be cold enough to maybe be able to give a little bit of snowfall. Again, it will not accumulate, but we might see a couple of isolated flurries in those areas heading into late Friday night into Saturday morning. Now, heading into tomorrow morning, there is going to be a substantial amount of colder air coming out of Canada. Areas in North Dakota will be freezing. We're talking temperatures in the teens and 20s across these areas. Back into South Dakota, same story, a little bit warmer in the 20s. Michigan, not nearly as bad, but once we go into Saturday morning, it's going to feel pretty cold out there. You'll need to get your jacket out. Minnesota as well as Wisconsin going to be dropping down into the low 30s, if not the upper 20s. So it will be definitely cold out there. First frost of the year is going to be coming to some areas in Illinois as well, and maybe even Indiana. Now, the rainfall over the next 7 days does not look fantastic, but it is better, and it's more of an improvement in comparison to last week, where a lot of areas saw a lot of dry air. We are going to potentially see upwards of an inch of rain across areas from Michigan back through Texas. So some improvements there. It could even go into Georgia. Other than that, the three main areas to look at for the next 7 days for rainfall will be Canada, also off the coast of Florida, and likely not to impact Florida by any means, and then also back into maybe closer to the Four Corner states back in Texas, and as well as into New Mexico. So a few areas to watch in terms of rainfall over the next 7 days, but otherwise the United States will not see anything too crazy, it looks like, for the short term. All right, we do have a new area to watch that is actually now potential tropical cyclone 13. It is moving off to the west. This might become named as early as today. It is a system to watch for very closely. There's a lot of convection right now, and this is again near Venezuela, so it's right now in the Caribbean Sea. It is going to be interacting with land a lot for the next 24 to 48 hours, but it very well may become a hurricane before making landfall, maybe closer to areas in Central America. The current forecast from the National Hurricane Center gives us to a tropical storm no later than tomorrow morning. Obviously, it may change as we get closer, but eventually heading into maybe Sunday, it's forecasted to make landfall as a hurricane in Central America. Now, from there, where does this go? Because there is some uncertainty. Will it go maybe in toward the Gulf of Mexico? Could it go into the Pacific Ocean? Or will it just stay inland and really not do anything? Well, this is kind of my thinking. So we really have a wide span of where this could go. Again, this is like the cone of uncertainty. It technically could go into the Gulf of Mexico. That's a possibility, but it also could go into the Pacific Ocean. So when we look at the ensembles, what it's kind of indicating, a lot more computer models are beginning to indicate that this could go towards the Gulf of Mexico. Now, as of now, even if this did happen, it does not seem like it would intensify to much if it were to enter the southwestern portions of the Gulf of Mexico. There's also another scenario where this does end up going into the Pacific Ocean and maybe re-strengthening from there into a new tropical storm over that direction. So we'll have to watch this pretty closely, but right now the current forecast is that this will not really get past anywhere past a Category 1 hurricane for those near Central America. It'll make landfall and eventually weaken back down. From there, there's no intensification really forecasted if it were to go in the Gulf of Mexico. But again, that's over 200 hours out. We will keep you updated with the latest here on Max Velocity. Make sure to hit the like button down below. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. This forecast is brought to you by Platinum Contracting.